This may sound cornball to some people, but get over it. My grandfather was a preacher.
Yes.
And my grandmother was very devout, and she set standards in her household that would make you and I look like liberals. Okay?
I know. I think about that sometimes.
but I was thinking of them as well, and asking myself the question: would they look at this and judge it harshly or not?
Yeah.
And I looked at it and I said to myself, we're not just being true to Christ. I mean, we are, but the other thing is we have a lineage, we have a heritage in America, and when I look at morally what's happening in America today, I think back on those great generations that fought and died for our freedom. They fought and died to protect our nation, and I think to myself, it would be a dishonor to them to see what has become of the land they fought and died for.
Yeah.
And this is the thing. We owe it to our ancestors to guard this nation against the evil that they fought so hard against.
Yes. And I agree with everything you just said, and I will add to that again. What you just said about wondering, of course, what would Jesus do? But then the next question you were wondering is, what would Grandma say about this? Well, listen, there is biblical truth in that. The Apostle Paul urged the early church to use him as an example. Now, he always proclaimed that Jesus is our ultimate example, and of course our perfection lies in Jesus Christ and not in a man or a preacher or a leader. But there's nothing wrong at all. It's just like my illustration of having a beer or buying a lottery ticket. When I ask my people, do you want to see me doing that? Their answer is no. And then I say, well, then why is it okay for you? And they don't know how to answer that. And that's what the Apostle Paul says. He said, look, whatever you have seen or heard me do, put that into practice, and the God of peace will guard. In other words, Paul was saying, look, it's not that I'm perfect, but I'm trying to be a godly man. I'm trying to be a godly leader, and you're watching my life. I am very well aware of that. So as you see me go through the struggles of life and you see me handle it in a godly way, you do the same. And as you watch God blessing me, you can count on God blessing you in the same way. So when you ask the question, what would Grandma do? Well, she was a godly figure in your life, and you had seen God bless her and use her over and over again. There's nothing unbiblical at all about asking that question from a godly person in your life, as long as, we're not looking to that person to be our Savior. And of course you weren't, and I wouldn't either. But, I have to guard against that, being a pastor in one place for such a long time. Every now and then there are people who think that kind of I'm the one that can usher them into heaven. And, I'm always having to remind them, oh, no. Just because you like Pastor Carl doesn't mean you're saved. You better get right with Jesus. But the bottom line is, your illustration of what would Grandma think is a perfectly biblical, valid question to ask.
I was 16 years old.